Nobody in the content space ever wants to say this out loud, so I will. Most personal brands fail not because of tactics. They fail because the person behind the brand never decided what they actually believe. You cannot build a personal brand that has no point of view. And I want to prove that to you today because Caleb Ralston just dropped a video asking a very good question. Why can't entrepreneurs build a personal brand? And I kept waiting for the answer. It never came. So I'm going to give it to you right now because here's what I keep seeing. People are posting every single day. They're showing up consistently. They're studying the hooks and the thumbnails and the content pillars and all that. And their brand still isn't growing. It's still not converting. It still doesn't feel like it has any real pull. And they think the problem is all these tactics. So they go and learn more tactics and it still doesn't work. And they can't figure out why. I'm gonna give it to you why. And I promise you, it's actually not what you think. It has nothing to do with your posting schedule or your niche or how much value you're giving away for free. And stay with me because this reframe is gonna change everything. Let's start by laying out all the answers you've probably already heard because I wanna be clear with you. These answers aren't wrong, they're just incomplete. And when you treat an incomplete answer like it's a complete one, you start spinning your wheels and it goes on for years. Answer number one, you're not consistent enough. This is a big one. You hear it everywhere. Show up every day, build the habit, trust the process, and honestly, there's truth in it. Inconsistency will hurt your growth. If you post 2 weeks and then you disappear for a month, people forget you exist. That's real. But here's what's also real. I've seen plenty of creators who are deeply inconsistent and somehow still build a massive audience. They post whenever they feel like it, then they go dark for weeks. And their audience, they don't leave. Their numbers for some reason keep climbing. So if inconsistency is this magical ingredient, why don't the rules apply to them? Answer number two, you haven't niched down enough. Also everywhere. Pick a lane, get specific, talk to one person. And again, there's something to this. If you're talking to everyone, your message gets diluted. But I've also seen creators who are basically talking to entrepreneurs, and that's it. That's the whole niche. And they have hundreds of thousands of followers hanging on to every single word they're saying. Hormozi talks to a broad audience. Myron Golden talks to a broad audience. So niche isn't always the whole story either. Answer number three, you're too focused on selling and not giving enough value. This one is probably the most repeated piece of advice in the content space. Give, give, give before you ask. Lead with value. And yes, if every single piece of content you create is a sales pitch, people are going to tune you out. That's true. But again, there are people who lead with their offers constantly. They mention their program in almost every video. They talk about what they sell, how they sell all the time, and their audience loves them for that. So that rule has exceptions as well. Here's what I want you to notice about all three of these. They're all about behavior. Post more, niche tighter, give more value. They're telling you what to do differently, but none of them are telling you what to be differently. And that's the gap. That's the thing nobody wants to say out loud because it's harder than a content calendar. It's an identity question, not a strategy question. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the thing I actually believe is going on. Most entrepreneurs are trying to build a brand before they have a point of view. And I want to be precise about what I mean because a point of view gets thrown around all the time. It becomes one of those phrases like that sounds meaningful, but nobody actually defines. Think about what a personal brand really is. Strip away everything, the logo, the colors, the content pillars, the aesthetics, the posting schedule, all of it. At its very basic, a personal brand is the answer to one question: what do you believe that people in your space don't? That's it. That's the whole thing. Your point of view is your contrarian take on the world. It's the thing that you see others are missing. It's the belief that you hold on to that if someone else heard it, they'd either lean in and say, yes, somebody gets it, or they'd push back and be like, I don't know about that. Both reactions mean you said something real. Now, here's what happens when you don't have that. You end up creating what I like to call content soup. You ever had soup? Yeah. Productivity on Monday, mindset on Tuesday, client win on Wednesday, a motivational quote on Thursday. Here's what I learned post on Friday. And individually, every single piece might be good, but when you zoom out and look at your feed as a whole, what does it say about you? What does someone walk away with believing about who you are and what you stand for? They walk away with nothing because there's no thread connecting any of it. There's no belief under it. It's just a collection of content. And here's the brutal truth. There are 10,000s of other people creating the same collection, maybe more. And without a point of view, there's no reason to choose you over any of the others. Let me give you a real world example of what a point of view actually looks like. Alex Hormozi just announced a $100,000 business competition. And on the surface of that, it sounds like a flex. And it is. But what's actually really happening? He's spending six figures to manufacture a reason for people to pay attention to what he's doing. This is someone with millions of followers and still has to work for eyeballs. But here's the thing, even without competition, even without the stunt, Hormozi gets attention. You stop the scroll just for him, sitting in a chair, in a hotel room. Why? It's not the production value, it's the posting frequency. It's because you always know exactly where Alex Hormozi stands. He believes most people are not working nearly as hard as they should be. He believes that the market is brutally fair and most complaints about it are just excuses in disguise. He believes that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is almost entirely a skill and effort problem. You know what he thinks before he even says a word. And that certainty, that clarity is what makes his content just magnetic. It's a point of view. And it does more than be a personal brand than any other strategy, any production budget, any posting schedule ever could. Now, contrast to that, that's where most entrepreneurs are. They consumed hundreds of hours of content about branding. They know what the content pillars are. They know their ideal clients' demographics, done all the exercises. But when you ask them what they actually believe, what they actually think is true about their industry, that the person that they would push back on, they're quiet. Or they give you something safe, something nobody could argue with. I believe in hard work. I believe in consistency. Okay, so does everybody. That's not a point of view. That's playing it safe. And this is the real reason personal brands don't work, because people aren't posting enough. And this is the real reason personal brands don't work. Not because people aren't posting enough, not because the niche isn't tight enough, but because there's no there. There's no belief underneath the content. There's no conviction, no perspective worth following. You can't build a personal brand without saying something personal to anchor it all together. And that something is actually what you believe. So how do you fix it? How do you actually find your point of view and build your personal brand around it? Oh, and one quick thing before I even get into that. A lot of people watching this don't even know who they're even trying to reach yet. And if that's you, that's actually step zero, because your point of view only lands when it's aimed at the person, at the right person. So I have a free resource linked down in the description below. Click it and I'll send it straight to you. It walks you through building your ideal client avatar so you know exactly who you're creating for. Go grab that first. For everyone else, here are 3 things I think actually move the needle. The first one is what I like to call the unpopular truth test. Sit down and ask yourself this. What do I believe about the industry that most people in my industry would probably push back on? And I want to be clear. I'm not talking about being controversial just for the sake of it. I'm not talking about picking a fight or saying something crazy and biased just because you want to go viral. I'm talking about a genuine belief, something you've developed from your actual experience, doing something super cool that only you can do, that you've seen from your side of view. Something that when you say it out loud, you feel a small amount of resistance in your chest, like, I shouldn't say this. Like, people might, not like this. That resistance is the signal. That's your point of view trying to surface. Let me give you an example from my world. One of my core beliefs is that most creators are hiding behind their content strategy because they're scared to actually be known. The tactics give them something to optimize so they don't have to do the harder things, which is deciding where they stand and saying it on camera. I believe deeply in this. And some people, when they hear it, they get a little defensive. And that defensiveness tells me that I've hit something real. So what's your version of that? What's the thing that you've been softening when you speak? That you've been qualifying to death? That you don't want to ruffle any feathers? What's the belief you hold you're afraid of saying at full volume? Find that thing. Write it down. That's the seed of your point of view. The second thing is to compress it into one sentence. Not a paragraph, not a mission statement with 17 words and a subordinate clause. One sentence, the kind of sentence you can say in the first 20 seconds of a video, and it would immediately tell somebody that they know who you are and what you're about. Think of it as a thesis. Like, every great personal brand can be distilled into a thesis. Hormozi's is essentially, most people are not working nearly as hard enough, and the market will always reward the ones who do. Simple, provocative, and clear. Brené Brown, if you're familiar with her, something like, vulnerability is not a weakness, it's the birthplace of courage. One sentence. Everything that she talks about flows from that. So what's yours? If you had to finish the sentence, I believe that most people in my space are wrong about blank, what would you say? Work on this, sit on it, and then refine it. Because once you have that sentence, content creation becomes dramatically easier. You're not starting from scratch every single week wondering what to post about. You're just finding new ways, new creative ways to say the same thing that's true to you. You're just finding new creative ways to say the same true thing to everyone else. Now, the third thing, and this is the one that most people always skip, is that you have to be willing to repeat it constantly. One of the biggest mistakes I see creators make is they find their point of view, they say it once, nobody responds the way they hoped, and then they abandon it. They think it doesn't work, but that's not how this works. Think about how many times you've heard Hormozi, and I'm gonna keep using Hormozi as an example. How many times have you heard him speak about the importance of skill acquisition and the volume of work? Think about how many times you've heard Gary Vee talk about patience and long-term thinking. They've been saying the same core thing for years, not because they're lazy, but because they understand something that most people don't. You need to say something many more times before it actually sticks with your audience. Your audience is not watching every single video, and they need to hear your point of view repeatedly across multiple different pieces of content in multiple formats through multiple stories and multiple examples before it actually clicks, before they associate that with you. It's not a tone, it's not an aesthetic, it's the feeling that no matter what the person is talking about today, I know what they believe at their very core. That consistency is the belief. That's what makes someone magnetic. That's what makes people come back. So I'll put it like this. Find the thing that you actually believe, compress it into one sentence, and say it 100 different ways across multiple pieces of content. That right there, my friend, is the entire strategy. Your content calendar is just a vehicle. Your beliefs are just the fuel. And the ones who get this, who stop optimizing the container and start filling it with something worth following, are the ones who build brands that actually last. So let's bring this home for a second. The answer you've heard, post more, niche down, give more game, more value, they're not wrong. They're just not the real reason. The real reason your personal brand isn't working is that you're trying to build a container before you have anything to put inside, anything real to put inside it. You're optimizing and packaging. You haven't figured out exactly what you believe, and you cannot strategy your way around that gap. The good news is that it's fixable, and it doesn't require a new posting schedule or a rebrand or a content strategy. It requires you to be honest about what you see that others don't, what you believe that most people in your space would push back on, what you're willing to say at full volume even when it makes someone feel uncomfortable. That's the work, and it's harder than scheduling a content calendar, but it's also the only thing that will actually build a brand. So here's your homework right now. Pause this video. If you need to ask yourself, what is my unpopular truth? What do I believe about my industry that I've been softening? Write it down, and then go on camera and say it. See what happens. Drop it in the comments too. I read every single one. And honestly, half my video ideas come directly from those conversations. So I want to know what you believe. If this video resonated with you, if it named something that you've been feeling but couldn't articulate, subscribe. This is the channel where we talk about exactly this kind of thing. Not surface level content tactics, the deeper stuff, the identity questions, the things behind building a brand that actually means something. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.